Hi, good morning and Jai Hind. I'm CS Suresh Ahuja. Today I'm just going to re-explain the famous poetry of the very famous poet Robert Lee Frost, written almost a century back. And this poem has been discussed, explained, read, and taught maybe more than a billion times across the globe during last 100 years. But what made me to discuss about this poem? The reason was that after I was really impressed with this poem, but after going through several explanations, presentations, I found that the very important part or angle of the poem was not discussed by any person to whom at least I could reach. See, there are always various angles where from you look at a thing, any write-up or any poem. But the most important angle is the soul and the object of the poet. What was there in his brain while writing it? What was his target to achieve? So that is what I found to be missing in all the presentations, explanations, or YouTube videos where I could reach. So I'm trying to make it out and trying to explain that angle, that soul of the poem, and which will come at the end and last page of the this presentation. Dust of Snow, written by famous poet Robert Lee Frost a century back, is already on the screen. Now I am trying to analyze few words here because that is not a literal meaning. That is the purpose with which it has been used in the poem. So analysis of words, you can see the way. So here, all of a sudden, unintentionally or accidentally, is the purpose of the poet to emphasize. A crow. A crow, as per ancient beliefs, it's a messenger of death or messenger between world of living and dead. Shook down, moved down on me, on the narrator, the dust of snow, powder tiny particles of snow from a hemlock tree, a very poisonous tree. Again, hemlock tree has been used, being a very negative kind of tree, and rude, that is regret, repent, to feel sorrow. Next portion, I have tried to explain the situation or the scenario which the poet tried to create, and he had very successfully created, and that is situation or scenario. The time, it was a winter season. Secondly, it was a time just after snowfall. The snow was not falling because the narrator could feel that dust of snow on him. That means the snowfall was already over. The snowfall had stopped. But snow was still there on trees. So that means the pleasant moments of snowfalls had just been over. It is not an old situation. So that moment was recently over. Okay. Now, this is the time, and let's go to the event. What really happened? A small powder of snow fell on the narrator, and that powder was no material gift for the narrator in ordinary course, as the nice snowfall had already happened. That's why it was just not even a snowfall, it was just a dust of snow, very small particles of snow that fell on the narrator. So he's trying to emphasize that the gift, or that the portion of the snow or the dust that was very small particles, that was not material. Then the mood of the narrator. This is really important, and I have not seen this portion, at least at so many presentations and explanations and books. Here, the very important portion is the mood of narrator. Okay, not negative, the positive mood, which will come later. The narrator had a bad mood and was depressed. Secondly, the narrator noticed the hemlock and crow and was well aware of the negative beliefs associated with them. So, this was the mood of the narrator. It was already explained by others. So, this was the scenario created by the narrator. And then comes what I was talking about just now. This is what I am trying to explain, which is not touched by any explainer, any writer, or anywhere. This is very, very important in this poem. And that is, the narrator had a habit of making his own observations. That's why he could overlook. And he is making us to overlook. And he made us to understand that he overlooked the hemlock and the crow. So the narrator had a habit of making his own observations and not to care much about general beliefs, which he was well aware. Next, the narrator's heart was full of gratitude for everyone, irrespective of common general beliefs. So whether it was hemlock tree, whether it was a crow, both of whom are associated with negativity. So his heart was otherwise full of gratitude for everyone, irrespective of common general beliefs. He overlooked those general beliefs. Then comes, the narrator's heart had a great affection for the nature. Because see, a good snowfall might have already happened. It had already happened. And very recently, not long back. So he must have experienced the pleasure of that snowfall. But still, this is a situation and a moment when that great snowfall had already happened. And then that small particle of snow falls on him. So look at his great affection for the nature. Then comes, the narrator's heart was in good command on the thoughts of mind. So that means, even after a great snowfall, when the trees could store snow on them, thereafter he got a very small dust or particle of that snow on him. Even if that was thrown or it came out from hemlock tree and the crow, which are treated the poisonous tree and the messenger of God, he didn't understand. He didn't relate that dust thrown on him by a crow from the hemlock tree in a negative angle. But as he had a very good affection with the nature, he had his own observations, didn't care much about general beliefs because he enjoyed it. His heart enjoyed that moment, that fall of that dust on him, snow dust. But then, heart had a very good command on the thoughts of mind because he had a very bad mood. He was depressed. So, in spite of that, or even if after getting that dust of snow on him, he must have enjoyed, but that pleasure converted his thoughts. So that means he had a good command. His heart had a good command on the thoughts of mind. Now, this is one thing which I have created exclusively. I don't find it anywhere on the Google, any books written by or explained by any persons, this nature and habits of the narrator. So the fourth portion is very important, and I think explained by me so specifically with that emphasis for the first time. And this is the real intention of this poem, because he's not trying to explain you about hemlock crow only. He is just explaining that even if that dust of snow fell on him, which was lying on the hemlock, moved by the crow, but he didn't take this as a negativity. Why? Why? What was the reason? The reason do not lie in these three portions. Rather, this event could have ruined his mood, depressed him more, because dust of snow was from hemlock through or by a crow. So he overlooked these beliefs. He enjoyed this gift, and his heart controlled the thoughts of the mind. Now, this portion has not been explained by, I don't think that I have ever seen. Okay, now this is something new angle and the most important angle of this poem. Next comes analysis of stated events. That what were the events which happened? A crow unintentionally moved down some powder and particles of snow from the hemlock tree. So this is really important, unintentionally. Then it accidentally fell on the poet. It could have gone on the ground also. But accidentally, the location, the timing was so that it fell on the narrator. Now, the stated event says that such accidental fall of particles of snow on the narrator was acknowledged by his heart. Was acknowledged by his heart is one thing. The poet didn't say that it changed my mood. He said that it was received by his heart as a mood changer. And it resulted, and the result was when it was acknowledged by heart, then it resulted in making his existing regretful or depressed mood in a pleasant and happy one. So the role was of the heart, which converted the mood. So thereby this accidental and such a small event was very well acknowledged by his heart. That is positivity. And it resulted in his wasteful or depressed day getting converted into a happy and useful day for the remaining part thereafter. So here, what the poet is ultimately going to explain, that even if after a heavy snowfall, when the hemlock was there, when the crow was there, and even the hemlock and crow, they just managed to put that kind of dust of snow on him. So instead of taking that as a negative event, his heart, loving nature, took it very positively, and it resulted in converting his mood from the bad to a good one. So this is what analysis of the stated event, and comes analysis of the expected result, because whatever facts were there in front of the narrator, they were enough to spoil his mood further. See, you can see here the narrator already in a bad or depressed mood. Second, passing by a hemlock tree, frightening as being a poisonous tree. A crow, scary as believed to be a death messenger. Fourth, nothing very material happened, and even the snowfall was over. So as snow was lying on the trees, that means snowfall was over. And powder of snow could be sensed by the narrator. That means the snowfall was over. That's why he could sense the powder of the snow on him. So these are four facts, and based on these facts, so the cumulative effect of all the aforesaid was sufficient to worsen the situation and further ruining of the mood of the narrator. Because in these circumstances, this was nothing very material for him. So this was sufficient. So the expected result was different. But what really happened? Analysis of actual reaction and result. But accidental fall of particles of snow after a recent snowfall was acknowledged by his heart as a thankful event of an unexpected gift. So this was unexpected, and his heart treated it as a thankful event. It was obliged with a gratitude. Now that is really very important, because only then when you feel happy, then you become thankful. So the second is, and his gratitude changed the regretful, depressed mood into a happy and positive mood. So this unexpected gift, he could have taken it otherwise also. But as he was thankful, so his gratitude, that how did he receive at his heart this event? So this his gratitude, thankfulness changed the regretful mood into happy. So all the aforesaid stopped the rest of the day from remaining regretful or more regretful in the presence of Hemlock and Crow. And result was that the event made rest of his day. So this is really important analysis of this poem. Here the poet's message for the event is that one should not get carried away with others' beliefs, but should make his own observations and judgments. Secondly, one should always have positivity and a positive heart to control thoughts. And next, one should have an affection for the nature, which is a continuous source of inspiration, positivity, energy, and pleasure. And finally, one should have a strong sense of gratefulness and develop a habit of noting and acknowledging the smallest favor by anyone, known or unknown. Even in this case, when that favor came from the hemlock by a crow, even after a situation when there had been a very nice snowfall, he must have enjoyed the pleasure of that great snowfall. But even after finishing that snowfall, when even a dust of very small particle of that snow was moved by those, that means the crow from hemlock, so his heart not only noticed it, but acknowledged the gratefulness and this favor, however small that is, maybe from a known or unknown person, and in this case, from negative tree and a negative bird. So this is the real message to be conveyed or intended to be conveyed by the poet, and this inference can well be drawn as far as this poetry goes. Now I come to a unique thing, that poet's universal message, object of the poem, that before writing this poem, we can generalize that every bad thing, situation, or person, in case the bad thing is tree, bad person is the crow, and the situation was also not that big. It was a very tiny, very small situation, event. So every bad thing, situation, or person is always not that bad. Always not that bad means because he overcome the beliefs of negativity of hemlock and crow. Particularly if one has a positive attitude at heart and a sense of gratefulness for all, for all, for all. So if one has got a positive attitude, so all things, situations, or persons are not always that bad. Particularly if you've got a positive attitude, if you've got a fresh angle every time. Don't get carried away by general beliefs or your own past beliefs. Always. You should be alert, smart enough, but your attitude should be positive. And a sense of gratefulness for all. So one must have a nature, a sense of gratefulness, thankfulness for all that what he gets, whatever you are getting, you should be thankful. Even if you are buying something, you are making a payment, you should be thankful because he could have refused also. He might not have the stock also. He might have kept it reserved for someone. So you should be thankful. So howsoever small that may be, even a very smallest particle of snow was really very sufficient to create a good mood because his heart had a positive attitude and a sense of gratefulness and thankfulness. This is the message which I have never seen anywhere after complete analysis. So, this is something new I have introduced here, and this is something which I have very specifically emphasized. I have not seen this kind of analysis anywhere before. Now it all depends on you. Now, if you come across something like this, then you please mail me at my mail ID, and which is already written below this page on the footnote. Thank you. Thank you. Please do write your comments. I can and I will. I'll try to give you unique explanations